Hello, everyone. It's me, Katie.
And I'm Danny.
And welcome to Generation In Between, a Xennial podcast where we remember, revisit, and sometimes relearn all sorts of things from our 80s childhoods and 90s young adulthoods.
That's right. If you've been listening, you know that our very last episode was all about the history of arcades. So if you missed that, go back and tune in. I did very extensive research for it. But while I was doing that research, it made me remember a movie from the late 80s called The Wizard, starring my very first Hollywood crush, Fred Savage. And before we start talking about the movie, I have to tell y'all about the relic that I brought with me today.
This is amazing.
Okay, so like I said, Fred Savage was my very first Hollywood crush. Ironically, he's the same age as my husband, so he's 4 years older than me, but he was on a show called The Wonder Years, and I was in love with him. And so back in the day, to all you youngsters out there, you could write fan letters to all kinds of celebrities, and you could find the addresses to their fan clubs in the back of teen magazines. Do you remember this?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you could get like Teen Beat, or what were some more of them? Tiger Beat, Teen Bop, or whatever. All these teen magazines in the back would have like their official fan club letters. And in fact, if y'all listen to our Reba super fan, Jen talked about that.
Yeah.
And about like being in the official fan clubs. This used to be a big deal. This was before the internet, everybody.
And snail mail, you send your you send your dues in if it cost anything. Not all of them did.
Right.
You send your letters by mail. You wait for potentially an autograph photo to come back to you or whatever it may be.
So I don't remember if I had to send away money. I don't think so. But it was right during his Wonder Years heyday, which was 1988, 89. Time frame. So I was 8-9 years old, which is about the time for your first crush, right?
Yeah.
And you guys, I got an autographed picture back. Yes, it was really autographed on the back with a marker, not on the front. And I still have it. How I still have this is beyond, because I've told y'all before when I talked about my childhood, a lot of stuff that I thought I didn't have anymore because of Hurricane Katrina. Still have it. This was in my box of shit. And if you are on YouTube, you can see here is Fred Savage. Here is the back. Let me see what he said.
Yeah, what did he say?
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
It says, "Hope all yours are Wonder Years." Fred Savage.
Okay, that's really cute,
right?
Actually.
So I loved him. I did go see this in the theater. I remember going to see it in the theater. The Wizard.
Okay.
Yep. But anyway, I just had to show y'all my little relic from the 80s that I still have. Did you have a Hollywood crush? Who's your first? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I have no idea.
For sad.
I have no idea.
Okay. I was obsessed with him. After him was New Kids on the Block. That was my second. Yeah.
Of course.
And it was all of them. Jordan was my favorite. Did you have a favorite?
You know what? I did like Jordan.
Yeah.
I liked Jordan a lot. I think that's probably my first, because that would have been like second grade for me when they were like,
because I was like in fifth grade.
When Hangin' Tough was out. So Jordan from New Kids on the Block was probably my first celebrity crush.
You know what it is? Those high notes. Right?
And you know how they almost look like Ken dolls? But
I have mine.
You still have them?
I have him. Yes.
I got him. I got Jordan.
Same.
For Christmas.
And he had the rat tail?
Yes.
I still have it.
And the red jacket? I think he had a red jacket.
Mine has a different outfit.
Okay. But yeah, he had the rat tail. It was like a plastic head.
Yeah.
But then a little piece of like, obviously synthetic hair for his rat tail.
It's not real hair.
I don't know. Maybe it was his hair. That would make it really valuable.
So why have we not done a New Kids on the Block episode yet?
I have no idea. It's en route though.
Because
we have to.
Yeah,
and you can bring in your little toy, your action figures.
I'm going to.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's my fun little tidbit. If you go on YouTube and you will see Fred Savage, or I'll put it on socials too. But anyway, so okay. That was just my little relic. So let's start talking about the movie, The Wizard. Katie,
okay.
Did you see this movie back in the 80s?
This is crazy. I didn't think I had. And when I was watching it, there were a few times I knew what was about to happen. And that final scene, which we'll get to, I remember watching.
Okay, so you
I
have
don't
seen
know
it.
if I saw it at my house or at a sleepover. I'm pretty sure I didn't see it in the theaters, but I was like, oh, I remember this. So I must have seen it at some point during those early years when it was out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look at memories coming back.
Memories.
All right. So before we start like digging into like our thoughts on the movie, I've got some trivia and stuff.
Cool.
Why don't you read the summary for us? So if those people out there, if they have no idea what we're talking about, they can know. Ready?
Sounds good.
Here's the official summary.
After his little brother Jimmy, played by Luke Edwards, is put in a mental institution, this is the official summary, folks, not our summary. Corey, Fred Savage, breaks him out and the pair run off together to California. On their travels, Corey meets a girl named Haley, played by Jenny Lewis, and discovers that Jimmy is a master at playing video games. With talents like his, he could easily win the top prize of $50,000 at Video Armageddon. While the three travelers hitchhike to the competition, the boys' parents hire a bounty hunter to track them down. My favorite horrible plot point, which we'll get to. And this was released in 1989, which you said.
Yeah, I said that. So like there's so much 80s in that one paragraph.
So much.
And speaking of lots of 80s, there were lots of 80s stars in this movie.
Yes.
I totally forgot some of them.
Mm-hmm.
So what I wanted to do before we started talking about the movie itself, I want to talk about some of the actors.
Okay.
So I'm only going to give y'all a little bit of trivia that pertains to like the 80s, 90s time frame with each one. And we can chat as we go. So of course, my first heartthrob, Fred Savage, played Corey. You may have seen him in The Princess Bride in 1987.
Yep.
Of course, The Wonder Years in 1988. Vice Versa, which I forgot. He was also in that in 1988. I think it's kind of like a Freaky Friday situation.
Okay.
And then Little Monsters in 1989. Do you remember that movie?
I remember that one. Yep.
So here's some interesting little facts about Fred Savage from those days. He was nominated for an Emmy and a Golden Globe for his role in Wonder Years at the youngest age ever. He was 12. He was Cooper's age.
Wow. Okay.
He didn't win, but he was nominated.
That's pretty cool.
And he still holds that record of being the youngest ever nominated.
Okay.
Yeah. When Wonder Years ended in 93, he went back to high school at 17, and then he went to Stanford.
Oh, I feel like maybe I did know that.
Did you know that?
The Stanford
I didn't know that.
part. Yeah.
Yeah, he went to Stanford, so good for him. This is such a fun little 80s trivia. He was a guest voice in Hello Kitty's Furry Tale Theater. Remember that?
From Cats vs. Dogs episode?
Yes. In 1987.
So he was a guest voice, not a regular.
No, he was a guest voice.
What was his character?
I don't know. It didn't
We don't know.
say.
That's crazy.
So if y'all don't know what Hello Kitty's Furry Tale Theater is, you need to go listen to our Cats vs. Dogs episode where I talk about it. It was such a cute little show. Oh my God. And I forgot about this, but then as soon as I read the thing, I was like, oh my God, I remember this. He was in this made-for-TV movie with Candace Cameron.
Okay.
All right. It was 1996, and it was called No One Would Tell. And it was about this teenage abusive relationship. He was the abuser, and he ends up murdering her. Spoiler alert.
What?
Yeah.
And they were so they were a teen couple in
in high school,
and it was a TV movie.
It was made for TV movie.
Okay.
You know, that's something that's going to come up.
Not
a lot.
An after school special.
No, it was a made for TV movie.
Okay, in 96. I mean, that's quite a bit later.
Yeah.
They were teenagers, not 12-year-olds, so that makes sense.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. He and it was like the first time I think anybody saw him outside of his little all-American boy persona.
Mm-hmm. How did it go? Did you read anything like if critics liked it or if
I don't know, but I remember watching this.
Okay. It's probably a big deal.
And then I was like, Katie should probably look it up because it's like true crime. I mean, well, it's not true, but it seems like something you would still enjoy.
I'm going to check that out.
It's called No One Would Tell. Yeah.
Love it. Okay.
Anyway, unfortunately, speaking of that.
Yeah.
We have to touch on this because in real life, guys, he's had a lot of charges of sexual and verbal harassment brought against him from multiple years and multiple sets and productions.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I read 2 that were specific to costumers who were women.
Yep.
One when he was like 16, which doesn't excuse it, but technically still a minor when that one happened. But another one from like, I don't know, probably in his 30s or something.
Yeah.
Where it's like unwanted like sexual comments and advances, and also just kind of being an asshole in general.
Yeah.
Like to women mostly.
Yeah.
But really like.
And then I saw this like statement he put out after like the one
The
in
later
his adult years where he was like, he was very apologetic at first. He's like, I apologize to anyone who ever felt uncomfortable around me. I'm paraphrasing, guys, et cetera, et cetera. But then he said like, I'm going to make changes moving forward in my behavior on how I can make sure blah, blah, blah. So it was like, he kind of admitted it, but not really.
Okay.
It was kind of vague. You'll have to look it up.
Just
I should have
for
read it down.
anyone he comes across in life, you hope that that's true.
I know. So it made me sad to read that.
Yeah. That's a bummer.
I know.
And then he's got his younger brother, Ben Savage, which was so big on Boy Meets World. I've never heard anything necessarily derogatory about him, but I haven't looked either.
Yeah.
I just wonder if like, yeah. And I'll tell you what, again, not that it's an excuse, but growing up with all that fame, it's gotta give you, even as adults get a little bit of a God complex. I imagine it happens when you're young. And then all those developmental phases for, girls and boys where you kind of push the envelope a little, but usually there's like a natural consequence, whether it's your family or your teachers or your peers. If you're living sort of in this like Hollywood bubble where everyone kind of works for you, you don't really get like that feedback that like, hey, maybe you shouldn't talk to women like that or whatever. Again, not an excuse, especially if he did it as a grown ass adult, but you can kind of see where that mentality might be shaped and like fostered.
Well, and also, I mean, let's be real. He's a straight white man.
Oh yeah.
With tons of privilege already and entitlement already. But then you become famous.
Yep.
And then the power dynamics are even more in your favor.
Yep.
So yeah. Anyway, so moving on from that, I don't want to stay on that too long because So then we have Luke Edwards, who played little brother Jimmy. Do you recognize him from anything else before I tell you?
I looked him up because, but all I saw was a grown up picture of him.
Okay,
that's all I saw, but I didn't look at his bio or anything.
He played Les in Newsies in 1992.
Yes,
yeah,
I see it now.
I forgot.
I see it now. No, I didn't know that either.
I didn't recognize him without the hat.
He's like one of those.
I didn't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you mean the newsboy hat?
Yes. He wears that hat the whole movie, doesn't he?
Probably.
I mean, and mostly, to be real, back in Newsies days, all I was looking at was Christian Bale.
Well, that's true too.
So
anybody else in that movie? Who knows?
Don't care.
But it was one of those things where as soon as he was on the screen, that's why I looked up like him now, and it gave me like a modern picture of him in his 40s because he's a Xennial. I wrote it down. He was born in March 1980.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay, so he's like our age.
Yeah.
And I was just like, God, he looks so familiar.
There you go. Well, and okay, he was also in his first big thing. He was like 7. He was in a miniseries. So here's the thing. You're going to hear me talk a lot about miniseries and made-for-TV movies a lot because all these actors, that was like a giant thing. For those of y'all who were not even born in this time, in the 80s, especially the late 80s and early 90s, like miniseries events. We talked about that on Stephen King, I think, or something.
Yeah, I was about to say, was he in it?
No. Okay. Hold on. I'm going to get there. Okay. But miniseries events and made-for-TV movies were a giant thing.
They're a big deal.
And they was on network TV. It was huge.
And big stars did it.
And big stars did. And a lot of people got their beginnings doing these little, not little, they were big productions. Anyway, he was in one called I Know My First Name is Steven. And you should probably look this one up because it's a true crime miniseries about a kidnapped kid. He got kidnapped when he was 7 and he was held captive for 7 years and then got out.
Whoa.
Yeah. I don't remember his last name, and then they made a movie about him. And so,
wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was horrible. And as soon as I saw that, I remember watching that. Because again, I watched stuff that I shouldn't have watched in the 80s. And there wasn't a lot of like, and I guarantee my mom watched that because she liked true crime stuff, but you should look it up.
Okay. I will.
It was really horrible as a man.
So it wasn't like he got kidnapped and they like just pretended he was part of their family.
No, they did, but they like it was
him too.
It was a man. I don't know all the details, but it was a man who kidnapped him, who was a pedophile. and abused him, but would take him out and stuff and act like it was his son.
Jeez.
But he eventually, and I'm, mental, had mental manipulation and stuff, but somehow the kid, I don't know the whole thing, but the kid got out. And he's like, I know my first name is Steven, but he didn't know anything else.
Right. Oof. Okay. Yeah.
So
I'll look that up.
1989. Okay. That was maybe it was 1988. I think I read that wrong. Anyway. And like I said, he was in Newsies. He was also in Little Big League in 1994.
Okay. I remember him from
that's
that.
where the kid becomes a coach of the Minnesota Twins.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if he looked familiar, that's why. But he was also on a bunch of popular TV shows during the time. Mm-hmm. He was in after school specials. He played Lonnie, who is Crystal's son, on Roseanne for a few episodes.
Okay.
He was in 21 Jump Street, which a lot of these shows come up multiple times. We're going to hit these again in a minute. Okay. So if you look familiar, that's why. But Jenny Lewis, who played Haley.
Yeah.
If you grew up in the 80s, you recognize her instantly. Yep. Do you know what she was in? She was the redhead in Troop Beverly Hills.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Came out also the same year, 89. She was a redhead, but also listen to all these guest roles she had on TV. She was in the Twilight Zone TV series, Golden Girls, Growing Pains, Mr. Belvedere, Just the 10 of Us, Roseanne, and then a whole bunch of miniseries and made-for-TV movies.
Wow.
So if you grew up during that time, you've seen this girl somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she got her start in a Jell-O commercial.
Really? Yeah. Aw, I could see that.
Yeah, but she is now, well, not now. She's been it for a while. She's a lead singer of a band based out of Los Angeles called Rilo. I don't know if it's Rilo Kiley. It's RILOKILEY, which formed in 1998. Cool. So she's an amazing singer. And they're really popular, actually. And she looks exactly the same.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I'll have to look her up.
Yeah. So fun facts about her. And then I forgot completely Christian Slater was in this movie.
Yeah.
Completely forgot.
Yeah.
He played Nick, the other brother. And obviously y'all know Christian Slater, but young people, you may not. He was in Heathers, 1988. Yep. He was in Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, in 1990. Young Guns 2, 1990. Pump Up the Volume, which I totally forgot about, 1990. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, 91. Untamed Heart.
Oh my God, I love that movie.
Yeah,
I love
1993.
That movie.
And then I just put et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And it goes on forever. Yes.
But do you remember the animated movie Fern Gully?
Yeah.
He was the voice in there. He was the voice of Pips.
Oh.
I didn't realize that.
No, I didn't know that either. Okay.
So yeah, fun little fact.
I could see it.
This was also very interesting. He was in Interview with the Vampire in 1994. Mm-hmm. He was the interviewer that interviewed the vampire, right?
Got it.
So River Phoenix was originally supposed to have that role, but he died tragically from an overdose, but right before they started filming. And so Christian Slater donated his entire paycheck to Phoenix's favorite charities. Really? His entire paycheck from that movie. Wow. Because they hired him after.
Yeah.
And so he donated all his money. Now, he was at a very financially stable point in his career at this point.
But still.
To be able to do that.
Yeah.
But still, I thought that was very...
And he was still a very young person.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he was
very
mature
his early 20s
thing to do. Yeah.
So I thought that was very amazing. Sweet. But then... Oh, also, he made his theater debut at the age of 9 in The Music Man.
Oh my God. On Broadway or?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think it
just
was.
In general.
Yeah.
That's when he started doing theaters. It's probably like his hometown theater or school or something, but that's so cool.
Isn't that cute? But then he also got in trouble.
Yeah.
In the 80s and 90s multiple times. Mostly for driving under the influence. He got in trouble for cocaine possession. He had some addiction issues. Mm-hmm. He evaded police, but he also got in trouble for physical assault. I think while he was under the influence.
Yeah.
Not that doesn't that's not an excuse, but
it kind of all goes together though.
It does. But he is now clean and sober. So
okay. You go, Christian Slater.
You go, Christian.
With that part.
And then we have the dad. His name was Sam, and he was played by Beau Bridges, who you probably recognize. What do you recognize him from?
Oh my gosh, everything, but you're going to laugh because the first thing I thought of, I've been watching the new Matlock on Paramount, and he's in it.
Oh, he is in the new one?
He's in it. He is funny. The like the owner of the big law firm where Kathy Bates gets a job.
Nice.
And so like all the lawyers are like young and powerful, but then there's like him who's like older and her who's older. And so he's in that. He looks and sounds exactly the same. Yeah. He just looks like an older version of the guy that was in this movie that we just watched, The Wizard.
I totally thought while I was watching, he looks a lot like the actor who played the dad in Teen Wolf. And I totally thought that was him, but it's not. And I don't remember that guy's name. But anyway, another fun little made-for-TV movie he was in 1989 was Everybody's Baby, The Rescue of Jessica McClure.
Oh, he was in that?
He was in it.
Oh, man, I remember watching that.
For y'all that don't know, Jessica McClure was this little girl that fell down a well and got stuck, and it like the nation was riveted with her rescue. Which is...
Maybe we should do an episode on that. Because she was saved.
She was saved. But I'm just saying it was such a... Like, I just think about now the things we watch on the news.
Yeah. Oh, I remember watching that.
Oh, I do too.
The actual event of like trying to save her.
And then the movie, right?
And then the movie.
Yeah,
for sure.
So, and it was a TV movie, guys. Like I said, you're going to hear a lot about it. He was also in The Fabulous Baker Boys in 1989 with Michelle Pfeiffer.
Okay.
He was in a Tales from the Crypt episode, everyone. He was in an episode called Abracadaver.
Yes.
In 1991. And he was also in Jerry Maguire. He was Cushman's dad.
Okay.
It was a little tiny role, but he was Cush's dad. Yeah, 1996 he was on that. So I kind of cheated. But that's very relative to Xennials.
Yeah.
But honestly, you probably recognize him because he was in like a bajillion million.
Oh yeah, you'd know him
TV
the second
movies.
you saw him, and his voice is very like recognizable.
Yeah, I mean, like I was looking at his IMDb like profile, bajillion TV made for TV movies.
I think he's one of those like he's been in the industry his whole life, and now he's like older, so he has so much stuff.
Speaking, and of course, he also was in After School Specials, and actually, all these cast members were in at least one during the 80s.
At least.
We need to do an episode on After School Specials.
It might need like a whole series. There's so many of them.
But he has acting in his blood because Jeff Bridges is his younger brother.
Yes,
he's the actor, and then his dad was an actor too, named Lloyd Bridges. And this is so cute. They have 3 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame next to each other.
I love that.
Don't you love that?
Lloyd Bridges. Oh my God, was he in? He was a funny guy. I feel like he was in the Naked Gun movies.
I don't know. I don't know who the dad is.
I'll have to look him
honestly.
up. I can see his face in my head. So anyway,
I don't remember.
He was in a lot of stuff too.
But here's a funny piece of trivia I found about Beau Bridges in his youth. He was a very good basketball player, and basketball, and he was scouted by the NBA. Okay. By several NBA teams. I don't know what happened, why he didn't do it, but there you go.
He's like, give me that movie money.
I mean, maybe he was like, I don't want to do that. And then I just had to mention this one other actor. I didn't even mention the mom because I didn't recognize her. Just didn't worry about it. But Sam McMurray, who played the stepdad, Bateman.
Yeah.
Where do you recognize him from?
Christmas Vacation.
Yeah. He played Clark's coworker in Christmas Vacation, which was in 1989, which was so funny because I watched this movie with Troy and Cooper, and that Cooper was like, that's the worker guy from Clark's job.
And he's in like one scene, but he's so memorable. He's in a couple of them. But it's just like always in the office. Yeah. I know. That's where I'm sure he was in other stuff too. Just he's one of those recognizable faces. But that was where I recognized him from immediately.
Yeah. Same. Yeah. You're the last true family man, Clark. All right. Anyway. He may look familiar too because all his TV guest roles, he had a whole bunch just like Haley. So he was in 21 Jump Street, Head of the Class, Empty Nest, Matlock, Dear John, Golden Girls, Who's the Boss, Home Improvement, and Blossom. That's just some of his guest roles.
Jeez. Okay.
Right? So that's why you recognize him.
Yeah, you've seen him.
And this was so fun. He was the first person to guest star on The Simpsons in 1989. Well, I mean, guest voice.
Really?
Yeah, and that show has the most guest stars of any network show ever.
Yeah, I mean it's been on forever,
and they always have celebrities on there.
Was he honest himself, or did he voice a different character?
Something.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay. But anyway. Sometimes like Lady Gaga was on, was a character, but it was her voicing it. It was Lady Gaga.
I was watching that episode the other day.
I love that one with the little monsters. Oh, it's so good.
Okay, so now we're done. That's just our little back. I have trivia about the movie, but I'm going to throw it in as we're talking in order about the movie.
Perfect.
Katie has her cute color-coded notes.
Yes, well, these are my
that's
Dawson
notes.
Never mind. These are just all in black, but they're all good. They're all good. Yeah.
So let's just jump right in.
Okay.
What's your first thought that you have written down?
Okay. This is funny. Right away, I can tell this guy, Mr. Bateman, is a douche. That's the first thing I wrote.
Okay, so the thing was, speaking of him and the family in general, we were so confused on the family dynamic.
Yes, I think I figured it out.
We finished the movie and we were still like, who the fuck goes with who? Not like it matters, but we were so confused.
Yeah.
And then I saw this piece of trivia and I was like, that makes sense.
Okay.
Because this film was written very quickly. Okay.
There's some plot holes.
They wrote it in 3 weeks.
Okay.
Right. So then once I saw, I was like, oh, okay. All right. Because the studio was worried about an impending writer's strike. So they were trying to hurry up and get it written so then they could get going. So they hired David Chisholm, who was under contract at the time, to pen the script since he was used to fast-paced TV writing.
Okay.
So he was a TV writer, which, is very different than full-length movies.
Yeah.
So I was so confused. We were like, okay, so the mom is the mom to all 3 boys, or is it just the 2? Like for the while we were like, we had to rewind.
Rewind.
We were so confused.
Yeah.
And then Cooper figured it out first. And then at the end, we're Googling it.
Okay. Let me see if I got it right. All then. Right. You tell me since you Googled it. I did not. The 3 boys are all full siblings.
Yes.
And the 2 older boys go to live with dad in the divorce.
Wait, hold.
And there's another sibling, but that's another story.
Hold on. No. Because. Okay.
And the guy that I said was a douche is a stepdad.
Corey.
Who
is Fred Savage.
Yes. Middle
Nick,
son.
Who is Christian Slater.
Okay.
They are full brothers.
Yes.
Okay, this is where it got tricky because in the very first scene in the kitchen that has those 2 boys and the dad, Corey says to Nick something like, he's like, Jimmy's going, they're putting him in an institution, Dad. And he's like, well, that's the mom, your mom's choice or whatever. And then he tells Christian Slater, well, it's because he's your half brother. So I think.
Okay.
The Jimmy and then the sister.
And then the younger ones, not Christian Slater.
No, I think Christian Slater and Fred Savage are full brothers.
Oh.
No, that's wrong.
I think mom is mom to all.
I don't think so.
Not to Christian Slater.
Dad, I think is dad to all.
Okay.
And mom, I think Christian Slater maybe is from a different mom.
Okay.
Because he kept calling her Christine.
True. Okay.
See, I thought I figured it out and now I don't remember.
And also, like, why?
And then
it'd be easier just to write that as like they're
I don't know. It was so confusing.
So then I was like, well,
where's his mom? And then who? It was so confusing. So maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Well, whoever they belong to, the dynamic of the movie is Beau Bridges' dad has the 2 older boys, right? However they're related, and then the younger one,
Jimmy
the one
is their brother.
Jimmy's the youngest, and he's with mom
and stepdad,
right? Correct,
right?
Okay, and so stepdad, like again, it was not the best acting. I like that actor, but it was like from the start, he was just an ass, and he was an ass the whole time. And you were meant to be like, oh, that's a bad guy, blah blah blah. That was like the first thing I wrote down.
Yeah.
So right. So then the plot point, like you said, right from the jump, is that the stepdad mostly is pushing for Jimmy, the younger one, to kind of be live somewhere else in an institution somewhere else. Because from what I could tell, I mean, and this is just our framing around things like autism and being on the spectrum at that time, which weren't mentioned at all in this film. I actually looked that up. I was like, when did people start using that term?
I have trivia on that in a minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
So essentially that's it though. He's just not like the other kids, and he likes to stack things, and he compulsively does stuff like that. And then the reason that they say they need to put him away or whatever is because he keeps just kind of like leaving and wandering off. And then the police have to find him. He's never hurt. He doesn't seem to have any sort of like outbursts or anything like that. He's just very quiet.
And he leaves California all the time.
And he says California all the time.
So the interesting thing about that is they don't say what's wrong with him. But this is a problematic thing of the 80s. Because to me, you could tell instantly he had some kind of undiagnosed trauma, number one, because she said something about when they're like in the I guess it was a social
worker, like an evaluation
or
something. Yeah.
And he was like, well, he always gets out and walks down by the river. And she's like, no, he never goes to the river. And I was like, there was some trauma with something with a river.
Yeah. With a river.
Something with a river.
Something with a river. But I actually didn't catch that, but you're right.
I did. And because to me, as somebody who had trauma as a small child, of course, like I recognize, oh, well, something happened to him. That's why he's acting like that. But they never really address it the whole movie. Even at the end, you don't.
Yeah, even at the end.
I mean, you find out some trauma.
You do.
But this was such a 80s thing about sending people away to a quote unquote home who have special needs or abilities. And God, that scene where the brother busts in to break him out and they show those kids they're
just sitting by themselves in rooms watching TV.
But I mean, I knew someone whose parent, like they had a sibling and they're like before they were born and their sibling had special abilities, needs, or I don't know what it was, and their parents sent them away. And I feel like the reason why that happened a lot though is because you didn't have the resources to provide the care that we have now.
I agree.
So like it's easy to judge from like our eyes now, but there just wasn't resources for you to take care of someone in your home to the best of your abilities.
Right.
Anyway, so here's a trivia piece about that. They don't ever, like we said, they don't mention exactly what mental disorder or physical ailment or whatever that Jimmy has, but it's strongly implied that it's autism.
Yeah.
And the filmmakers actually decided not to mention it by name in the film because they wanted to avoid comparisons to the movie Rain Man.
I wondered.
Which was released just a year earlier.
Okay. Interesting, because if you would have watched Rain Man,
right,
let's say in theaters where they talk about autism, and then you would have watched this one a year later, then you would have caught on to that and you would have said, oh, that's the same thing.
But they didn't
maybe
want
like
to do that, yeah.
Right. But what I'm saying is like, I guess they didn't really need to for people to make that connection. But now me watching it in 2025, not right after, I'm going, well, why are they not? I'm like Googling it. I was like, did we not have this word? Like, what's going on? And it was like, no, it was there. I mean, obviously it wasn't talked about as much anyway.
Well, and there was
and not on a spectrum either.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There was such a lack of awareness. I mean, because Rain Man is a problematic movie for a lot of reasons.
Right.
In that notion.
Right.
So anyway,
we didn't have the depth of conversation around it that we do now, which, doesn't make it any necessarily better, but it was just different than what we have. And I think what you said about that, about institutionalization or whatever you want to call it, those views have changed too, as well as the resources and there's still not enough. Oh my gosh, there's still not enough.
Well, and now there's even less because of shit that's going down.
Yeah,
so I'm just saying, and I don't care. I'm saying that because whatever. I can
go
so far. I can right now. Who knows how long I'm gonna be able to say what I want, but anyway, moving on. Let's talk about something else. That's
okay.
I have a fun one. The music in this movie was
good.
So nostalgic.
It was good.
Also, the product placement had me just so excited for the 80s.
Oh yeah,
the Hostess truck
with Wonder Bread on it too. That was really good.
Did Hostess make Wonder Bread?
Yeah, I think it's the same company.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Same company. I don't know if they're still the same company.
Okay,
but I think it's the Wonder Company. And Wonder Bread and Hostess are like under the umbrella.
All right, well, that was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. Well, and then like the obvious one, like the different video games, and at the end, Super Mario Brothers, which I will say, once they got to the big video game thing at the end, and I'm skipping ahead a little, and then the game was Super Mario Brothers, I was kind of
Super Mario 3, and there's a whole big thing about that we'll get to.
Well, I was just sort of like, oh.
No, but there's a reason why. Okay. So I'm going to save it till we get there.
Okay,
I'll save it because you'll get it.
I had one thing I didn't like that much, but it's very stereotypical of the 80s when Beau Bridges was like the bumbling dad and couldn't make food for them.
I know, right?
He's like, sorry, I don't know how to cook. And they're like, you suck at cooking. You could never make anything. I was like, can he just like maybe make them breakfast or give them cereal or something? Like, Why does it have to be a whole, well, we don't have a mom here. We just want you guys to know all of us don't know how to cook and we don't have any meals. I was like, come on.
And also, do you know how many meals I've cooked that look like that?
Me too. Me too. And I mean, maybe you could look at it like that too. Maybe it has nothing to do with the fact that he's a single dad.
It was the 80s. Come on,
they were trying to set it up, in my opinion, to be like, this is the struggles they're having, but who knows?
I put riding a skateboard on the highway and using maps to find the way across country.
Yes.
God, do you remember having to use a map like that? It sucked. It sucked.
And if anything changed from the time your map was printed, like a road was closed or a new road was there, you just better hope you figure out where you're going. And people traveled like that forever. My dad still travels like that. He's got like maps of like Indiana and Michigan just in his truck. And he'll be like, where am I going? Okay.
Like, Dad, you can look it up on your phone.
I mean, maybe he does that too. And he just likes having the maps.
Old habits.
But no, he likes looking at maps.
But the skateboard on the highway.
That was pretty cool.
Had us cackling.
That was really
Two
good.
of them. Two of them on one.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Girl, they would have gone like nowhere.
Yes. I also had, and I know there were other movies like this. There's one, I can't think of the name of it. I meant to look it up and maybe everyone else will know, where it's like 4 kids who try to like run away because they're going to get split up because their parents died or something. And it was around this time, maybe in the 90s.
That sounds like a lot of movies probably.
But that's what I said. Like this whole idea
of
running away and like somehow being safe and getting where you were going.
I know.
Is kind of like a theme in these movies and TV shows of the time. Yeah. I just remember that really being something that I was interested in.
Yeah.
And oh wow, kids can do that kind of stuff.
Did you ever try to run away? I used to all the time. I was just dramatic.
Not for real. I think I got mad and like walked outside, but I don't think I ever went anywhere.
I walked around the block because you know what my mom would tell me. This worked with me because she knew I was being dramatic, and I just wanted the attention. She said to me, "Well, if you run away and leave, don't try and come back." And I would be like, but what she would also tell me, sometimes I'd be like, well, I'm going to call the police and report you for stupid shit. Like I was not abused, guys, but she would say to me, that's fine, Danny, you call the police. You know what happens? They take you away, not me, which is true.
It is true.
Which, God, guys, that sounds awful, but also it makes the child who's trying to be an asshole be like, oh, snap.
Right.
Then that's not the burn I wanted it to be.
And if it is a situation where you're better off being taken away, then it doesn't hold you back.
Well, right. I mean, I was like, that's why I said I was not in a dangerous situation.
Exactly.
Like I was just being an asshole.
I just want you to get in trouble, Mom.
Correct. I was being an asshole. Yeah. And this was when I was, anyway. So, okay.
That's crazy.
Did you see the video game table in the diner?
I did.
Okay. We talked about that on the arcade and you were like, what are you talking about?
I still don't think I've ever seen one in real life.
Now, the ones we had at the place I talked about were smaller. It was like a 2-person table.
Okay.
They had like a huge like diner table.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, did you hear the song playing in the background?
No, I don't think
so. It was Hanging Tough. New Kids on the Block.
Yes.
And ironically, the next diner they went to also had that song playing.
Oh, that's funny.
And I think that was probably an editing oversight.
Because everything seems rushed in this movie.
Because of course I noticed. Yeah. And I was like, why is that song on again? And I was like, wait, is every time they're in a diner, we're going to hear New Kids on the Block? No, it was just those 2 scenes, but they were back to back. And I wonder if they filmed them on the same day or something.
Yeah. Or just like, the audio track sometimes exists outside the video track.
Right.
They just didn't cut it off in time and it just went through 2 scenes instead of just one. Yeah.
So here's a little piece of trivia since we're talking about some arcades things. So several NES games appear in the arcade scenes. And in the late 80s and early 90s, Nintendo actually had an arcade cabinet, which is what arcade games are called, guys. Arcade cabinet.
Okay.
And it was called Play Choice 10. And as soon as I read that, I remember this arcade game. And this would allow the gamer to choose between like a bunch of NES games.
Okay.
So if you don't have an NES at home, you could go to the arcade and pick from like their whatever popular games and play it. And you could just play freely between them all until your time ran out. So you would just put your quarters in and it would give you an allotted amount of time to play as many of these games as you wanted, which was a good
really
marketing
good idea. Yeah.
Because if the games were expensive and I mean, games are still expensive.
Yeah.
So if you were trying to convince your parents to like get you one, or you're trying to save up, you could try them out and then be like, oh, I want to go buy Super Mario 2, or I want to go buy Tekken or whatever. So that's a little piece of trivia for you there.
Love that.
So what else you got?
I said the Hostess cake Wonder Bread truck. I texted you about this. I was like, so did kids really just like ride on Greyhound buses by themselves? So when they come across Haley, she's just by herself, and there's appeared to be no one else at the bus stop except the worker.
Listen, I told Katie. So Katie and I had different experiences growing up.
And she's supposed to be like 12, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I knew kids that did that, like divorced families, like they would get on a bus and go across countries, either or just from state to state, because it's expensive to fly.
It is.
Yeah. So I don't, my point in saying that was in the 80s, I don't think it was unusual for a kid to be traveling by. Now, granted, there probably is an adult somewhere as they're getting on whatever bus.
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting that there was no one else in the entire bus stop, and
Corey was literally the only one.
Corey and Jimmy walk in, and there's one other girl their age
that's so
who's
true.
about to hop like a cross state bus by herself, and how expensive it was, and I was just kind of like, I don't know, and so I just thought that was kind of funny, but
the 80s were crazy. I mean, the 80s were, listen, especially for those of us who were latchkey kids, which I was like a halfway latchkey kid because my grandma was there sometimes. But like Katie's like, I wish I could have done that. Like we're texting back and forth, and she's like, I wish I could have done that. And what I almost texted you back, but I was driving, and I was like in my backyard at 12 years old smoking cigarettes. That's what. What was happening?
Maybe you should have been on a Greyhound bus going somewhere instead.
That's the 80s were wild.
They were wild, man. Yes. Well, okay. So can we talk about the plot point that I wish just wasn't even in this movie?
Do you know what I'm going to say? I don't know what it's.
The bounty hunter guy.
He's terrible.
So Jimmy goes missing, and then Corey goes missing too. And so the mom and the douchebag stepdad hire literally this guy. He's like, I find kids for a living.
Creepy.
And he's really creepy. He's not nice. He's horrible. And I just he just kept showing up. And I mean, I get it. He's like a foil because they keep having to run from him. And then, but my also thought, but then I had another thought on it too. Okay. So they hired him to try to find the kids, but then the dad, Beau Bridges, and the older brother, Christian Slater, they're on their own trying to find him. Yeah. And they keep trying to thwart the bounty hunter, which I'm like, if your kid is missing, right? Wouldn't you just be like, whoever finds him first, let's just find him?
Well, they addressed that. The bounty hunter addressed that with him when they were leaving that console, wherever they were at with the stepdad and the mom. Trying to, I guess when they found out the kids were missing. When the dad was like, I'm going to go, blah, blah, blah. The bounty hunter told him, he's like, don't stand in my way because I only get paid if I bring him back.
Right.
Well, so that pissed the dad off.
Yeah.
Because they weren't going to find Corey. They were just going to find Jimmy.
Okay. Well, I get why the dad's looking.
Well, yeah.
But wouldn't you still want the bounty hunter to look too?
No, because the bounty hunter threatened him from the jump.
Okay.
You must have missed that. Were you awake?
I was awake. I was just like shocked.
I mean, listen, there's plot holes in this whole fucking movie. Yeah. Like it was written in 3
But every
weeks.
time that the dad would puncture his tires or whatever, I was like, don't you want to
so
find
weird.
These children?
It's
I don't know. I thought that was weird. But I mean, it also added some comedy.
Okay. We got to talk about some more of the video game stuff because I watched this with my husband, right? Who he had never seen it. He's like, how did I miss this? And I'm like, I don't know. You were like prime audience for it.
Yeah.
And the Power Glove scene.
That was amazing.
Okay.
That was so good.
Y'all. So right when the Power Glove came out, it was right around this time. So the marketing for it was high. But as we know, it sucked. The product sucked itself. Troy talked about this a little bit on the Nintendo two-parter that we have. We keep referencing back to that because it was so good. But my favorite thing was when the kid Lucas goes, I love the Power Glove.
Yes, I know. It was like a commercial in a movie.
Okay, but listen to this fun piece of trivia that I found out. A very young Tobey Maguire has a cameo in this movie. He's one of, do you know the scene at the video? I don't remember if he was also in Lucas's little posse in the hometown, but at Video Armageddon for sure, where he has his little posse of people. Tobey Maguire is in there. He's got a mullet. He has no lines. He's got a nice.
He's just in the group.
Nice mullet.
Oh, I'm gonna have to look that back up because I wasn't looking for him.
Yeah,
I was not looking
for
him.
Isn't that fun?
That's so great.
And then the dad playing the Ninja Turtles game.
I know,
all night long.
I know, I loved that in the hotel. Right? They had it at the hotel.
No, Christian Slater had it.
Brought it
into the hotel.
Yeah, okay.
But the funny thing is that game is fucking hard, y'all.
Really?
Troy has it. Yeah, it's really hard. Troy was like, and they were like, oh, I'm on level whatever. And Troy's like, that's not what that level is. That's like the first level.
Diehards are
gamers are
get it right.
Gamers gonna know if you fuck it up.
Yeah, and they're gonna know.
So it's hard. It is not
easy.
So
I had like a weird Xennial moment where when I watched that, I was like, wait, were the Ninja Turtles a game first or a series first? Because I thought they were a series first and then the game like spun out of it. But then I was like, was it a popular game and then they made a series? So I looked it up.
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
Series was first.
Okay. I was like,
game.
Actually, that's a good question. I don't know.
Because I was like, yeah, maybe it's one of those that went in reverse. Like there was a popular game and then they did a series. But no, there was a series and it was popular. So they made the game.
Got you.
Yeah.
Because Super Mario Brothers, they were a game and then they had a series.
Yeah, so exactly.
You never know.
So sometimes it goes the other way.
Okay. So speaking of the bad guy, I put this was in reference to like the teenage bad guys. But I said, why are bad guys in 80s movies always in an old pickup truck at some point?
Right? Always. Yeah.
Like, remember the scene in Footloose?
Yes. Oh my God. I forgot about that. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's very much a trope.
Hero.
I love that song.
Sorry. I didn't mean to sing over you. That wasn't nice.
Well, it's funny that you said the thing about songs because we were talking about the music. The Send Me an Angel song.
Send me an angel. Who sings that?
I don't know.
Oh, I thought you were going to know.
No, I just said I remember singing that high riff when I was a kid.
Of course you did.
And then I was singing it again when I was watching the movie.
Who
does sing that one? It's someone pretty popular.
Right now.
I know.
I thought they were new wave people, so I thought you would know that.
Yeah, you would think. Brant knows.
All right, well, where's Brant when you need him? Anyway, okay, so let's talk about, we talked about funny stuff, but like 80s movies have some sad stuff, guys. Like kids movies had some sad shit back in the day.
Yep.
Like so sad. And also why in 80s movies is undiagnosed trauma always seen as a quote unquote handicap?
Yeah.
Because they said that word a whole lot.
They did.
And then when you find out the story, you're like,
well, let's start with like the, not that it's a lesser of a trauma, but like the more of a tertiary trauma, which is Haley's trauma.
Oh,
so we know her parents are divorced right away because she's talking about going back and forth. And then she talks about how her dad's a trucker because they end up in like an abandoned cab and she like knows how to set it up because she stayed in one with her dad. But eventually when they get back to her quote unquote home, which is just kind of out in the middle of the desert and not really a home at all, and there's no parents there, she tells them essentially that her mom, it sounds like, I think I got this right, that she gambled their money away.
Yeah.
And she references her being like a showgirl at one point, which, go off, be a showgirl. But it's like kind of tied to this whole like, and that basically
she's addicted to gambling.
She's addicted to gambling. Yeah. So there was that. And I put down sweet kiddo worried about her family and home because she wants to go to this game again or whatever. Video game Armageddon, whatever it's called, because she wants to get enough money to get a house for her family. Yeah. And it's just, you're just like, oh, so there was that. So then, spoilers on the way. If you decide you're going to watch this now that we're talking about it, you might not want to listen to this part because it is a plot point of the movie. But we find out Jimmy has a twin sister. Had, who has passed away in a very tragic accident.
Yeah.
And I texted Danny because in his little box that he carries around, he's got pictures of him and her, and the little girl looks like little girl Danny.
No.
I thought she did. I'm going to pull up a screenshot from the movie and one of yours you put on our socials. Right. I thought it looked like you.
Okay.
Weird. Were you a model for pictures and you didn't?
No. I
was like, whoa, that's Danny. So, never. And of course, these pictures he's carrying around with him, Jimmy's carrying around with him. And we know, twins are even more bonded than average siblings.
Did that just wreck you?
That wrecked me.
When they open up that lunchbox.
Mm-hmm.
Cooper looked at me because he knew I was about to start bawling.
Yeah.
But he cried too, so whatever.
Yeah, whatever. How could you not?
Like it just, I little kid trauma gets me the hardest.
Yep. Totally.
Like every time.
And then when you realize the whole movie up until that point, because that's towards the end of the movie, you realize that he's just so misunderstood and alone. Right. They're all grieving because it was a family member.
Yeah.
But his grief is so much showing itself differently than everyone else.
Well, and the big brother too, because he was supposed to be watching them.
Mm-hmm.
So like he, like in the beginning of the movie, like he's having issues with the dad, like fighting, and he's drinking and staying out late, obviously dealing with this trauma because he feels responsible, which he's not. It was an accident.
Right.
But and he was a child watching a child, right?
And you would feel like that though when you get it. Yeah. But even though it wasn't his fault.
Right. But also he's young, like he can't grasp onto that. And
so Jimmy's trying to get to California because we find out in this like scene towards the end, they went, what was it? It was like, this is the scene I remembered that I was like, I've seen this movie.
What?
When they go and there's like the giant dinosaur.
Oh wait, we'll get there.
We'll get there.
Skipping ahead. You're skipping ahead.
Well, that's where
we're gonna get there.
The picture.
We still have things to get to.
Yes.
So before I start talking more about the video games, you're talking about Haley's house. Her trailer.
Yes. Yeah.
The kissing scene they had.
Oh yes. Oh my God.
Come on, that was so cute.
That was adorable.
She was like, my favorite though was when she was like, I'm not kissing a boy, and he's like, a girl maybe.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well that was actually like
not bad. And she goes, you smart ass, which I thought was fine.
I was like,
she wasn't
okay.
like, what?
When he said that, I was like, oh shit, what are we about to say? That's awful. But I was like, actually, that wasn't awful.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
But I thought it was funny.
It was cute. It was cute.
Like first kisses for like, but then also, shit, you know what we didn't talk about? Who the producer of this movie was.
I wasn't sure when we wanted to bring that up. It's such a downer.
Crap. We have to say it because I was about to say, and this is why I'm bringing it up. I was about to say he was, 12 years old having to do a kissing scene. That's got to be awkward.
Mm-hmm.
For her too.
So the producer was Dan Schneider, the executive producer,
which I missed completely until Katie texted me this morning, and I was like, "What?"
Yeah. And I looked up like if any of these three main actors, because Christian Slater was a little older, but like the younger kids ever spoke up about any impropriety, and none of them have on the record that I found. But he's just, and if you don't know who that is, in a nutshell, he's a subject of Quiet on the Set, a documentary about a lot of Nickelodeon stars, which were a little bit later, like early 2000s. And just really some awful stuff, creepy to like criminal with these young performers. And so when I saw that name at the end, I was like, oh God. And it does make you kind of like, not that I didn't think anything was too over sexualized in this movie, but it does make you double think, like even just the kiss, and then towards the end they all kiss each other on the cheek, and then Jimmy kisses her on the is a lot of kissing, and it was just sort of like
unnecessarily too. I don't know about this,
but
I mean, I thought the first kiss scene was cute, but then I was like, cute. But they're young, like they're young.
Children, like it's not even like teen love, it's like kids. Yeah, so it was a little weird. So anyway, enough about him, but he was the producer on this one.
Yeah, I also wrote down that the bad guy irked me a lot. And then I wrote in caps, nobody wore seatbelts this whole movie.
The whole movie.
So 80s.
Yeah.
I never wore a seatbelt as a kid. My mom still does not wear a seatbelt. And guys,
what?
She was an ER nurse. Saw people die because they did not have seatbelts. My life was completely saved by I was in 2 really bad wrecks in my life. And I survived because I had a seatbelt on. And my mom, she'll wear it, but not properly. Because here's the thing. We're short and she's a lot shorter than me. So a seatbelt hits you weird. But guys, we live in 2025. They make all kind of attachment bullshit that you can put on.
And cushions.
So she would like put it on and then put like the crossbody thing behind her. So she would just have the lap belt on. But she only started doing that when they started giving you tickets for not wearing a seatbelt.
Oh
guys.
My gosh. Yeah.
And if she's just riding in a car, she won't wear a seatbelt.
Man. Well, that's on her, I guess.
I mean, anyway.
Well, not to mention the scene where they're going through Reno and they're standing up in the back of the pickup truck.
Oh, I forgot to say this. I forgot to say, in every 80s movie, People are riding down some big city street out of a sunroof or the back of a car or a window.
Children standing in cars or heads out of sunroof with like big city or casino behind it. I wrote that down.
Many, not even just kids. Remember Big out of the limo. Every movie has somebody with their head out of something
or standing up, and you see the big city lights behind them. Yes,
that's
and the three of them. I know. I love that. Okay, so then when they're in Reno, and the bad guy catches up to them.
Oh yeah, that was crazy.
And so he goes to grab Jimmy, and Haley screams in the middle of the casino, "He touched my breasts!" I was like, "You go, girl."
I know.
I just assumed they're going to be like, "He's being kidnapped."
Yeah,
but
she knew what would get their attention.
Hers was more effective. So immediately security's taking the bad guy out, and they can kind of get away.
Yep.
And I thought that was really funny and really smart.
I also put in caps, yes, truckers saving the day, because I actually had a trucker save me one time. Like I said, I was in a bad wreck. Truckers are great, wonderful people, by the way. But I was in a really bad car accident driving home from college one time, and it was raining. It had just started raining, which is actually, by the way, public service announcement. The slipperiest a road is like 10 minutes after it starts raining.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even speeding because I get nervous driving in the rain. I was not even speeding, but I hydroplaned and spun off the road. I was in a Volkswagen Beetle, and I spun off the road and hit trees on the driver's side and then spun around again. So my windows busted. I couldn't open the door. I had to climb out through the window. And I remember I like grabbed somehow or another, and I had like my laundry in the back, and it flew out everywhere, like throughout the window. I remember I had the wherewithal to grab my purse that was on the front seat, and it had my little Nokia cell phone and my wallet and stuff. And I climbed out, and and nobody was on the road. Thank God, because I'm glad I didn't hit anybody, but there was nobody around. Thankfully, it was daytime, but I remember I was climbing out the window, and a trucker saw me, and I was literally the only and he pulled over, and he opened his door, and he was like, "Come on up in here." And I was terrified.
Yeah.
And he was an older gentleman, and I was like, no. I was in shock.
Yeah.
And he's like, so he turned his truck off, and he's like, "I'm not going to go anywhere." He's like, "Just come on up here and get out of the rain." And I like climbed up. Amazingly, I wasn't hurt. I had some bruised ribs, but that was about it. But we didn't know this at the time. And he was like, he's like, "I'm going to call the ambulance. He got on his radio and called whoever. And he's like, "Is there somebody I can call for you?" And I was like, and I like gave him my phone, and he called my mom.
Wow.
And anyway, the ambulance came pretty quickly, but I was like in some like random spot on the interstate close to like some rural tiny town in Louisiana. They take me to the hospital, they run all these tests. I had like leaves in my hair. Like it was crazy. God. It was very traumatic. Like they weren't sure if I had any injuries, so they had to like put me on the board, and they had to cut my clothes off, and like it was this whole thing. So fast forward to a few hours later when my mom got there, panicked, and she had gone to where they towed my car, and she was like, the truck driver had picked up all my stuff. It stayed with my car until they got there and all this stuff. Long story short, my mom asked for his information, and nobody had it.
Wow.
They were like, "No, we don't have any information for a trucker." And like my mom's convinced he was like a ghost or an angel, maybe, or something of that. But like,
because normally they'd file it like an incident report.
Oh yeah,
even
nothing.
Back then
there was nothing. But I think every time I see a truck driver helping someone, I think of that man.
Yeah.
I don't remember what he looked like.
Wow.
Because I was in shock.
You were just trying to get some.
But when I see like, because I feel like sometimes truckers get like a really bad rap.
Yeah.
But they are and I've had friends whose parents are truckers, and they're amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing people who really do want to help. And you fuck with kids? No, ma'am.
No. So
they came
that
to the day.
That scene, and then after the truckers kind of corner the bouncer guy, the bad guy, the next scene you see is him sitting outside a 7-Eleven on the curb with a Slurpee, which is awesome anyway.
Yeah.
And then he's putting his hand in the Slurpee
yeah.
to put the Slurpee on his black eye. That was awesome. Okay, so like then I was like, okay, I take it back. This guy's okay in this movie because for this like one scene, I don't like him, but I didn't like him in the movie. I was like, why is he here? But then when I saw that scene, I was like, well, okay. The trucker into the Slurpee on his black eye. I was like, we're good. We're good. Oh, and the one trucker's name that was friends with Haley was Spanky.
Spanky.
And so I just put Spanky to the rescue. The one that you...
Spanky to the rescue.
Whoa. Check our Christmas story episodes for that one.
That's not going to get them there.
No, that's not going to get, not that. They're like, no thanks.
Like,
they're actually pretty good though.
So
don't worry.
What else I have, everything else I have is about Video Armageddon. What do you have?
Same.
Okay, so let's talk about it. So the crowd there, first of all, the hair, the makeup, the clothes was so
and it was at Universal Studios Hollywood.
And let's talk about how everybody's just walking around.
I know.
There's no security.
No.
There's no tickets.
No.
There's just like the back. Oh, and on the backlot tour ride, RIP, because that ride's amazing. They used to have it here in Orlando and it's gone and it was the best. Everybody was just like letting the crazy man like be walking through trying to grab these kids and they're just like on the ride.
Yeah.
I'm like, but that was so 80s.
Yeah, it's just like, I'm going to mind my business. I'm on my ride right now.
Then they're like climbing around the ride and stuff, like the King Kong part, and that like nobody's grabbing these kids.
I know.
Just, like,
I know.
That could never happen today.
And so so I have two kind of specific things. One is that the mom and the stepdad then are there. Are they just there?
And he was just like eating popcorn.
I was like, is your child missing and you've just decided today you're going to go to Universal Hollywood? Or were they like tracking him to there?
I think the bounty hunter called them or something.
This is another thing they missed somewhere.
Yeah, see, plot holes.
Because I'm like, they're just spending a leisurely day eating popcorn when their kid is missing.
Stepdad, like, stop eating. And I'm like, well, I mean, you still have to eat.
Yeah,
but also he's like eating popcorn. It was weird.
That was weird. And then, the host of the video game Armageddon. Are we supposed to know who this is?
I forgot to look him up.
So, like, I was like, is this a personality from the 80s that I should know? Because he wasn't just like, let's do it. He was like, come on now. Here's the da-da-da. And I was like,
meant to look it up because I think he may have been like a wrestling commentator, but I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that, guys. We'll come back to that.
It was just so niche the way he was behaving that I was like, who is this? Am I supposed to know who this is?
You know what? We have to pause for a second because I have to pee really bad. Maybe you can look it up.
I am going to look it up. Let's pause.
Okay, pause.
Hold on, everyone. All right, guys, we're back. We had a little potty break. Hopefully, if you need one, you paused too.
Yeah.
But anyway, in that break, we looked up this video game Armageddon host, announcer, whatever he was. He has been in other films, but at least at the time that this was filmed, he wasn't anyone notable from like pop culture or anything.
Maybe I missed something, but Katie was like, but what's the reasoning? I'm like, I think you're reaching too deep here for a movie that was written in 3 weeks.
Correct.
I think they just wanted it to be
kind of cheesy, kind of.
Yeah.
His acting choices are interesting. So if you don't know who I'm talking about and you watch this, let me know what you think. So cool. All right. So video game Armageddon. I did notice and I liked that there were a lot of girls and women in the gaming stuff, in the crowds.
And one in the finals.
And in the finals. And like you saw them playing leading up to the finals. And then one in the finals. It was kind of weird. The announcer guy was like kind of like touched her braids and was kind of weird.
Yeah.
I didn't like that.
Handsy.
But I was like, okay, so we got a lot of women gaming. Awesome. Yeah, that made me happy.
Well, I have a whole lot of fun things to tell y'all about stuff that goes with Video Armageddon.
Okay.
Are you ready? So you mentioned Super Mario 3, yeah?
Yeah.
So this whole movie was used for marketing by Nintendo, and they used this movie to release Super Mario 3. So nobody had seen it till this movie. They wanted this movie to be the debut of Super Mario 3.
Okay.
So, and the most interesting thing that Troy and I noticed throughout the movie, you see little peaks of the game.
Yeah.
Because we were like, that's Super Mario 3. Why aren't they talking about? But that's why. Because there's like little peaks, little peaks, little peaks.
Yeah.
Like because Christian Slater's playing it.
Yeah.
Like, And then that's their final game is like this brand new game that nobody played. So when you were like, why is it Super Mario 3? That's why, because it was supposed to be this new release, which, by the way, is my favorite Mario game. I was so good at it. Anyway, they wanted people to see the game first in the movie.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, well, that makes complete sense.
So another fun piece of trivia, which I think I passed by it. So, you know how they're getting ready when they're getting ready for the video Armageddon, they're calling that hotline. They're in the hotel. She's calling a hotline.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Okay. So Nintendo Power really did have hotlines you could call for help. I think Troy talked about that when he was on here. I mean, what a fun job for a gamer. And Troy flipped out because one of the hotline people had an OG like Legend of Zelda hat on his computer. And Troy's like, oh my God, I want that hat. And then, so the film actually utilized former Nintendo gameplay counselors. That's what they were called, to play most of the games in the film. So it wasn't really the actors. It was them.
I wondered about that. I was like, they have to have professional gamers actually playing the games.
Yeah,
and you just don't see them. Okay.
And the funny thing that goes along with that is at the video Armageddon in the final contest, those big, large screens that they were playing on at the time, they were all rear projected screens because there were no TVs that big at the time. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that funny?
That's really funny.
Yeah. And then, speaking of Nintendo Power, there were some participating movie theaters. When this movie came out, they distributed special issues of a pocket-sized version of Nintendo Power called Pocket Power. Cute. I guarantee they're worth a whole lot of money if you can find them on eBay.
Yeah, that is so cool.
Also, Nintendo gave each of the producers, which one of them is shitty, but a brand new Game Boy handheld because those were brand new at the time. But one of the producers couldn't figure out how to do it, so he gave it to Christian Slater.
That'd be me. I'd be like,
too. We'd be like, I don't know. Here,
come here, youth.
Come here, youth. Teen here. Yeah. But actually, the year after the release of this movie, Nintendo really did have a national contest to find the world Nintendo champion.
That's cool.
Yeah. So it was kind of like they used it to release Mario 3, and then they used it as like a lead up to their own event, which, hello 80s and marketing and capitalism.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this whole movie was just so they could release that game.
That's what I was going to say. So what studio released this?
I don't know.
Probably Universal. Oh, it was Universal. Because they're at Universal. And I remember at the beginning it had the Universal, Earth and the old, because I remember thinking, that's the retro Universal like logo at the beginning of movie. So it was Universal. But it must have been commissioned by Nintendo, or Universal was just going to write it, and then Nintendo's like, hey, we'll give you X amount of dollars to like prominently display us in it, like product placement.
I don't know.
But then they released a whole game on it? I don't know. I'm sure there was someone who knew someone and they all just worked together.
That probably sounds like a bunch of like businessy stuff that we would be bored if we found out the details of it.
You're right. It's probably as simple as like someone knew someone else and they were just like, let's do it.
I'll tell you what it was. Money.
Studio plus money. Video games plus,
Okay, so Jimmy, when he wins, which we knew he was going to win. Like,
of course.
Oh my God, when he's standing there with the lunchbox. Oh, it wrecked me, guys.
I know.
It wrecked me.
So sweet.
And then let's talk about the dinosaur part.
Yes.
All right. That, first of all, sobs. That's what I had. Literal sobs. That place is real. It's a real place. It's in Cabazon, California, and it's the Cabazon dinosaurs. That's what it is. It's a tourist attraction in the middle of the desert. It's a real place, but it was also used in another 80s movie. It had a romantic scene from Pee-wee's Big Adventure in 1985. Have you seen that movie?
I have.
I don't remember this part.
I don't either.
Yeah, so I got to look it up.
Well, speaking of that, the line they said on the Backlot tour where they're like, a new romantic movie coming out with Zsa Zsa Gabor and Pee-wee Herman.
Oh, I
did
didn't
you miss
that up?
When they're on the Backlot tour and there's like the tour guide.
No, I didn't even hear it.
And I mean, it's made up because there's no such movie. But I was like, that's a really funny.
That's hilarious.
That's a really funny line. And then when the tour guide on the backlot thing's like, everyone shut up and have fun. I know. Or whatever he said.
Be quiet and have a good time.
Yeah,
I don't know what he said.
I loved that. Anyway.
That was literally me when we would come for family vacations in Disney. Literally, there was one time I was screaming at Kaden right in front of the Magic Kingdom.
I feel like if you're anywhere on any amusement park property, but certainly Disney, and you just stop for a second and look around, that is mostly what you see.
Well, I feel
people
like
melting down.
It's true because you spend so much money. It's so much money.
There's a lot of pressure for it to be
everything.
Perfect.
And then like kids are going to be kids.
Of course.
And then they're going to be ungrateful. They're going to be complaining. They're going to be tired.
They're going to be hot.
You're going to be tired. You're going to be grumpy. Almost certain one of the two adults doesn't even want to be in Disney World. Wasn't me.
The other adult that I'm with. Yeah,
so true. It's a lot, but anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's a real place.
Okay, cool.
And they used to, I saw something from the early 2000s. So I don't know if it's still valid, but the lunchbox that they put there, they left it there at the end of the movie. So you could it was still like in that little hidden spot.
Oh.
But here's a fun little thing. So the end of the movie originally had a different ending.
Oh.
So I'm going to tell you about it. The original script's ending was had Haley leaving with her share of the money to take back to her dad. Okay. And then Jimmy throws the lunchbox in the river.
Oh.
Right. So the director, whose name was Todd Holland, he didn't like it. So he rewrote it in one night and they shot it the next day.
Seems to be a theme with this movie. I'm going to write it in one night.
I know. But also, like, let's talk about the end where the mom is like, just take our boys. And they're in the back of a fucking pickup truck while she's in this nice sedan.
Yeah. And aren't they all kind of going the same direction?
And they're driving across country. She's like, just take our boys. And I'm like, where? They're going to ride in the back of that fucking pickup all the way? Yeah. And while you're just cruising in your
and y'all live by each other. Like,
it was weird. We were like, what?
Yeah, and then I was like, is she? And then was the implication that she was thinking about getting back? They're thinking about getting back together?
No, I think it was just like, we'll talk when we get home, like to make it more amicable, probably.
Okay, probably.
No, I mean, like, also like divorce in the 80s was such like a common theme in movies.
Yeah. For sure.
Which, I mean, my parents were divorced. There were Troys. It was.
Yeah. I mean, it was common theme because it was common
reality.
Thing, and it still is. Yeah.
So, do you have any more?
No, that was it. Those were all my notes.
So, we're at the end.
Yeah.
So, what is your final opinion?
I really loved it.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it. Time. I thought that I loved all the actors. Well, the bounty hunter and then the weird Armageddon guy I could have done without. But like, I loved the sons and the dad and Haley and just that spirit of adventure that I remember having as a kid, wanting to kind of go do my own thing when I was 12 or whatever. I loved that. And I really liked the video games.
I know.
I thought it was so really fun.
Like, it was a fun little trip back. We watched it like last Friday night or something. And it was me and Troy and Cooper. And it was, or maybe it was Saturday because Cooper was sick, but it was a good time. We all had a good time watching it. Like, yeah, it's a very good, fun, nostalgic trip back down memory lane. And if you didn't live during those times, it's a good, what do you call it? I don't know what I was trying to say.
I don't know, like a primer or like a snapshot.
There we go.
A snapshot of life at that time in a lot of ways, but certainly the video games.
And look for Tobey Maguire.
Okay, I have to go back
in the Bad Boy Posse.
I can't wait to see that.
His mullet is nice.
I can't wait.
It's quality mullet.
You go, Toby.
Yeah,
I love
he was
him.
A cute little kid, though. I mean, obviously, he got cast in a movie as an extra, so
yeah, he was on his way.
I'm still laughing when you asked if I was a model because, guys, I had no business.
I'm telling you, okay, that is going to be my social media contribution in the next week. I'm going to find the picture of you as a kid. I'm going to find a little screenshot from the movie. I'm going to put them next to each other. But
she was a cute little kid. I was not. I was cute for a little bit.
Well, and the age in the picture, she's probably like 7.
Oh, yeah, because she was like 6 or 7. So I was cute then. Yeah, I got kind of weird looking when I was 8 till about.
When I was 8. I was cute till I was 8. And then,
I was. When I turned 8 until I was till all the way to like 17, I was kind of goofy looking.
Well, it happens. I feel that.
All right, so that brings us to the end of chatting about The Wizard, the movie. But now we're going to jump into our little closer for each episode that we just started doing, which is where we do trivia.
Yes, 80s and 90s trivia.
Yes, so play along with us. Today, Katie's going to do one from the 80s trivia game, and I am going to do one from 90s.
Okay, so I'm going to try one that doesn't have to have a picture.
Okay.
No, that's a picture. Hold on. Okay, here we go. I always give you spelling ones though.
I know.
Okay. This is a multiple choice.
Okay.
This is the 80s. Which one of the following major world events did not occur in the 80s?
Okay.
Your options are Chernobyl disaster, fall of the Berlin Wall, the Gulf War, Tiananmen Square protests.
I don't know what that is. So the Gulf War started in the late 80s, I think. Or did it not? The Berlin Wall. I remember watching that on TV, but hello, I watched TV all during the 80s and 90s. Oh, I don't know what the last thing is. And Chernobyl was not the 80s. That was the 70s, right? Or the 60s? I don't know. That's my guess.
Chernobyl?
Yeah.
No, it's actually the Gulf War. Gulf War started in 90, I believe.
Oh.
It doesn't have more of an explanation.
I was thinking it was
Berlin Wall was
80s.
like 85 or something.
I remember seeing that.
Tiananmen Square, I thought that was in, oh my God, I could be totally wrong. I thought it was in China.
Oh, I don't know.
It had something to do with the dictatorship and like protests and people being killed.
Does it say when all the things happened? Oh, darn.
I know, that's a bummer. But Chernobyl, I think, was in the early 80s.
The early 80s?
I think so.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Dang, that was a hard one.
That was really hard. Jeez, when we don't have pictures.
And I bet we just messed up all kind of facts right there.
Yep. Well, it's trivia. This is our non-researched portion of the podcast.
Yeah, for real.
Just so you know.
Oh, this is going to be a funny one.
Uh-oh.
It's a numbers game. So the answer is just a number. But you don't have to do any math, although you're good at math. So anyway, it is the number of consecutive years the Buffalo Bills lost in the Super Bowl in the 90s.
In the 90s. Oh,
guess.
Lord. Which is funny because they were like in the playoffs recently.
Oh, they were.
For football. Yeah.
I don't know sports.
I don't know
Just
that they
guess.
lost the Super Bowl. 3?
Close. It was 4.
I almost said 4.
Yeah.
I didn't know. It would have been a guess, but awesome. All right.
Like those trivia questions.
Those were kind of bad. Sometimes these are duds, but that's just proof that this is just really in the moment. We do this, and that's what happens sometimes. So anyway, thanks for listening, everyone. Make sure that you review us wherever you listen to podcasts, whatever platform you're on. It helps us out a lot to give us a 5-star review and leave a nice comment. And same with YouTube. If you can go on there and subscribe, like some of our videos, leave a comment here and there, it really makes a huge difference. It's something free you can do. Obviously, time is worth money, so we do appreciate you for that. But we really appreciate it, and we'll see you on our next episode.
See you next time.
Bye.